Come on, man. And with the local DBC news, LL Cool J with a triumphant comeback.
More unbelievable. But tonight,
Don't call it a comeback.
Oh, you better believe we're back. That's right. Welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts, episode 55. I'm Mainz, and my co-host, Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Back once again, like the Renegade Master.
D for Damager.
That's the one.
With the ill behaviour. Where have we been, Neil?
We've been doing other stuff.
Is that because we're cool, or just because we've been busy?
I think it's just because we've been busy. It wasn't a planned absence. It just sort of developed into one.
It did, yeah. It was due to my work and Neil's work, more Neil's work in inverted commas. We haven't been able to do multiple podcasts a week, and unfortunately, the Waxing Lyrical one hit the skids as we have a boss in the other one, and he shouts if we don't do our job.
And plus, I like to think that the content we get to on Waxing Lyrical it's timeless.
Agreed.
You can listen to it any time.
Whereas if you're listening to Mainz and Dutts discuss footy on uknenzon.com, that's not timeless. That's got a time box.
Yeah, you don't want to be listening to how you could have made money on week 4 when you're in week 9.
Exactly. That's an issue. So we're back. The boys are back. And do you know what we're going to discuss? Because we're back. Comebacks.
It's only right.
So we're going to discuss the best comebacks ever. Things that need a comeback. And comebacks that should never have happened.
Okay. And hopefully people won't think we should be in the third category.
No, we're best comebacks ever. You better believe it. So let's get this thing started on with best comebacks ever.
Go.
The year is 2004. It's September time. And the New York Yankees are 3-0 up on the Boston Red Sox. Nothing unusual here, as the Boston Red Sox haven't won a World Series in baseball since the Babe left them in 1913, 14, whatever.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. The year before, the Red Sox thought they'd won 2003 ALCS, and Aaron Bruner broke hearts with a home run. As I said, 3-0 down, dead and buried. Curse of the Bambino hanging over them. The fourth game goes to 12 innings. Fifth game's close. Sixth game's close. They blew him out in Game 7. Changed the world of baseball. When I say the world, the Red Sox won that World Series, then won one in 2007 and won one this year. 3 times in the last few years. The Yankees have only won one and have been a bit mediocre since.
Well, obviously, you know, they don't spend an awful lot of money. They don't have the resources to combat. Oh, hang on, sorry, no. They have the largest payroll of any sporting organisation in America.
Exactly, and this is where that's what kind of happened. And they still do that, and they've struggled. And ironically enough, they've just spent millions and millions of dollars on a 7-year deal for a Japanese pitcher, which is supposed to solve all ills. We'll see if it does. Red Sox, under my favourite owners in the world, Mr. John Henry and the FSG Group, have done a stellar job. Although a year previously, in last year, 2 years ago, 2012, they were laughed out of Boston. But this year came back and won another World Series. There's actually a 30 for 30 on the 2004 ALCS called 4 Nights in September. It's worth a watch.
Would it be accurate to say that the Boston Red Sox were built along Moneyball lines?
Yeah, although they did spend more money than, say, the Oakland Athletics, who were the classic Moneyball. They followed the same philosophy, but did spend more money. So they liked the idea, but they were able to spend $100 million on players like Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz. So it's a little bit yes, a little bit no. You don't get Kurt Schilling coming to pitch for you if you got no money. So it's a little bit of both.
Obviously, if anyone doesn't know about Moneyball, I'm more than happy to discuss the sabermetrics angle, not so much the baseball angle.
It's amazing. It's a great book, and it's also a great film. Bravo to Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. You should watch it.
It's great for geeks.
It is great for geeks. Dutton, give me a comeback.
There's only, from my mind, the greatest comeback of the last 15 years across all genres, across everything you can speak of. We're talking sport, we're talking music, we're talking movies, we're talking anything. And that was when the Whisper Bar came back.
Why did it go away, Dutton? That's the question. Why did we ever let it go away?
It was one of those. It just seemed to just disappear. There was no publicity campaign. There was no the death of the Whisper, or the shout, I suppose the death of the Whisper would be. It just went away, and all of a sudden people are left just like, oh, but there was something else here. There's something missing, and then all of a sudden it came back for a trial period. And well, I'm sorry, the trial must have worked spectacularly. I'd like to think I contributed. I went for it, and now it's there. It's a regular up there on your confectionery shelves, and you're more than welcome, because I ate a lot. I ate so other people wouldn't have to get the Whisper back, because ultimately I knew if they bought the Whisper back, they'd bring the Whisper Gold back,
which they did. But what I like about what they do with the gold is that flits back in and out of consciousness. That's not as stable. That's like, you know what? I'd love a gold. And it reappears back into your life, and you're like, wow, they remembered I want a gold.
It's like the
and you
cream
sort
egg.
it out.
If we had the cream egg all year, I wouldn't eat it. But it's here just between like January and Easter, and I can't say anymore. I'm going to get upset.
I can't, because I don't like cream eggs.
You're wrong.
That's probably true, but it's a factual statement that I don't like cream eggs. If you got an issue with it, sue me. Dutton. I come back in the world of music. It's a little bit boy band, but I don't care. There was a little band between 1996. You may have heard them. Take That.
A group.
A group. We call them a group, not a boy band.
The bands play instruments.
Okay, a boy group. One of them does. Well, we'll get on to that. Robbie Williams, Gary Barlow, Mark Owen, and the other two, Jason Orange and I can't even remember the other dude's name. Howard, yeah. Well done. They were pretty successful in the UK. They left us. Well, Robbie left, became a solo artist, was successful and then wasn't. But anyway, then the Four did another album, did okay, and then left us for a while. Returned. Yeah, well, returned 9 years later, 2005. Without Robbie. But you didn't need Robbie then, Dutton, because Barlow was the winner.
Barlow definitely the creative force.
So if you want to get into context, that first time they were with us, the largest selling album sold 1.5 million. Beautiful World, which was the first album of the regeneration, 2.8 million in the UK. They became that, they were a boy band that if you only liked if you were a teenage girl, to everybody liking Take That.
They found the middle road. It's one of those, as we've always said, the best thing for someone's career or their legacy is to go away. Or actually, what we usually say is the best thing for someone's career is to die. But I wouldn't wish death on any members to Take That. But they went away. It was gone. It became something. It became something to be treasured, and then it came back.
It did.
They weren't trotting out the same puerile teenage mush that they've been doing in the early 90s. These songs now, they had meaning to them.
And they're good. And, like or dislike, X Factor gives Barlow a job on there. Barlow writes all the songs. People, I think, underappreciated Gary Barlow the first time around. And they thought, Robbie Williams was the talent. But, everyone knows now. Robbie's the singer, he's the entertainer, but Barlow's the brains of the operation.
Mm-hmm. He's the face.
Exactly. And where in the previous Take That, it was Mark Owen and Robbie Williams from a teenage girl point of view. For me, there's no doubt that this is Barlow and backing singers.
I'd go with that.
Dutton, who's next?
In the mid-1970s, there was a popular theory that the England's best batsman didn't want to play for England because he was scared of fast bowling. He'd shown the great ability to be where the fast bowlers weren't. But then in 1977, the country came a-calling again and said, look, we need you for the Ashes. and he came back at Trent Bridge in 1977, and the first thing he did was run out Nottinghamshire's Derek Randall on his home ground. Well done, welcome back. He went on to make 100, which was his 99th first-class 100. And then a couple of weeks after, the next game at Headingley, at his own ground, Sir Geoffrey Boycott scored his 100th first-class 100. Went on to make 191, and England won to win the Ashes.
So why did we ever not pick him?
It was self-exile.
So, is Sir Jeff ever told us why?
He wasn't particularly confident with his form. He wasn't particularly happy at Yorkshire at that time. Obviously, there was issues regarding the England captaincy. Sir Jeff thought that there was one person who should be England captain, him. The establishment, as where didn't like the idea of a miner's son being England captain. These are all conspiracy theories. I can say them in a flippant voice because I love the man.
Of course.
And there were people getting the England captain's job who not fit to lace Geoffrey Boycott's boots as a batsman. But he came back. He was then 77. He played for England up until, I'm going to say, 1982. And he finished, 151 first-class hundreds.
It's a decent effort done.
Yeah,
you put that into context, no one's sniffing that nowadays.
No. He scored over 8,000 test runs, despite the fact that he missed 3 years. So I think you can confidently say he'd have hit 10,000 before anyone else if he'd have played those 3 years.
And now he's the voice of BBC Radio.
Indeed, one of them.
Come on, Tottenham. It's him and Aggers, and the rest do lip service.
I'm glad you mentioned Aggers, because Aggers is the constant.
Well, Aggers is his Morecambe and Wise. No?
Yes, he's a straight man. Yeah,
he's a straight man.
Yeah.
And they're doing a theatre tour as we speak in that concept, I guess, which I assume you've got a ticket to.
I wish I had, but I don't think they're doing any. I know they were doing one in Southport, but it was about 50 quid.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. Just after Christmas. I love you boys, but
maybe the Beeb doesn't pay as much as we think.
Well, I was offended that I wasn't just invited.
Well, I know you're close friends with Aggers on the Twitter, like.
I'm a friend of the great and the good.
Well, of course. Dutton. You may have heard of him. Mr. Michael Jordan.
The baseball player.
Correct. Won 3 titles. 3-peat, back-to-back. And retired to play baseball, or if you're Bill Simmons, to recover from a gambling problem. Played for the Birmingham Barons for a year, 18 months. Actually got quite good. Birmingham, Alabama. Not Birmingham, middle of the UK.
It's just a silly accent.
It is. Actually, it was quite good. Again, another 30 I'd recommend. It's called Jordan Rides the Bus.
Sounds epic.
It's actually good. It's the story of him in baseball.
It sounds like a Curious George cartoon.
It could be. In 1995, he comes back with the Bulls and wins 3 more titles. Ironically, retires again. Then in 99, comes back in 2001 for the Washington Wizards. But we won't get into that. It's not the same. He won MVP in both phases of his life. So he won it 88, 91, 92. And then he also won it in 96 and 98. Suffice to say, the Bulls didn't win in between when he wasn't there, and haven't won since he retired.
No, one-man team.
Yeah, you can kind of say that, although there was Pippen and Kukoc and the rest, but it falls into the fact that Jordan made them tick, or shouted at them and slapped them in the face until he did as they were told.
See, I recently read a book called Scorecasting.
Yes.
Which I've presented you with a copy. And basically it looks at myths and statistical trends and anomalies. And one of them is a quote much attributed to Michael Jordan. And that quote is, defense wins championships. Well, when you actually look at it, successful teams, it's more often the best offense wins championships. So what it's actually been attributed to is the star of this team trying to put a bit more limelight on other members of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, it wasn't come out and say, it's all about me. It was, that, hey, don't forget these guys. Yeah, so it's an extra bit of self-publicity in a not self-publicising kind of way, but as a theory, it is bunk.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but, you know, let's hope.
I wasn't in Space Jam, so my opinion probably doesn't count.
You weren't. You didn't save the world.
I do believe I can fly, though.
We don't want to get into R. Kelly on this. Dutton, comebacks.
Another comeback, another cricket one. I don't know if it's been mentioned, but there was an Ashes series in England in 1981.
Was there? I didn't know
Apparently
this.
so. England were 1-0 down after one test, and the captain had been told, he was being appointed on a test-by-test basis. Can you imagine how village that is?
It's classic England, 80s.
Yeah. So, first test in, lose. Okay, you're going to be captain for the next test. The next test, the captain goes out and made a pair at Lords. Now, for the non-initiated, a pair is a nought in both innings, so-called because it looks like a pair of spectacles if you put the two noughts together. See? Very clever. So he then stood down as captain. The press conference after the game, the chairman of the selector said, well, we were going to sack him anyway. That's quite the pat on the back. You pat me on the back with one hand while you stab me in it with the other. So there was speculation that maybe he wouldn't play in the next test, which was going to be, again, at Headingley. That marvellous ground, where so many great English triumphs have occurred and where we've been drunk in the past.
Dance like Elijah's youth.
We did. Called dickheads by Ian Botham. It was a great day. So he was announced that he would play. And thanks to some careful mind game psychology by the new captain, Mike Braley, Ian Botham took 7 wickets in the match, scored a 50 in the first innings, scored a wildly entertaining and resourceful, which is what they say for a jammy bastard, 149 run out in the second, propelled England to win. The series was back level again. It was 1-1. There were 4 more tests to play. Is this the third test? 3 more tests to play. England won 2 of them, drew the last. Both of them had starting roles in every game, and the legend of Ian Botham really was born from that time. He came back. He didn't really go away, but the Botham who got the captaincy disappeared with the captaincy. It came back after the captaincy.
It's that kind of idea where you almost put too much pressure on yourself to deliver results, and because you do that, you don't deliver results. And someone says to you, don't deal with all that rubbish, let me deal with this, and you just go out and play. And Serene went out and played. See, of course, the 1981 Ashes series has become very famous in the English way that we do, in the sense that whenever there was a rain break in the mid-1990s of any Test cricket, they'd show highlights of the 81 Ashes, because it was the only one we ever won. Yeah.
It was annoying.
Well, it got annoying.
It's like the way nowadays, though, they don't do that. Now they just show the highlights of the second Test from Edgbaston in 2005.
Yeah. My only highlight is you texting me while I'm in Morrison's in Ormskirk.
One day I will watch that DVD of that game, and we'll lose it.
We will. It's like the one we draw when we should win, that Old Trafford.
Yeah.
See, one day I'll watch that and we'll win.
Harmison will bowl at the stumps in that last over.
Exactly. He's not going to wedge it, Steve. Bowl at his feet. You lanky Geordie Pratt.
Belter.
Yeah. Final one on best comebacks done. For the people who listen to Waxing Lyrical through our first 54 episodes, Dutton has a phrase that he thinks that I use this podcast for. What is it, Dutton?
Cop-eye propaganda.
Istanbul, baby. 25th of May 2005. Liverpool were 3-0 down against AC Milan in Istanbul.
And lucky at only 3.
Lucky it was only 3, due to a change of formation. The bringing on of German legend Didier Mann and the use of the captain, Mr. Steven Gerrard. Liverpool scored 3 goals in a 6-minute period, go on to get to extra time and penalties and win their 5th European Cup. I'd like to state for the record right now that I am one of the 2 people on this podcast, the 2 of the only people who didn't go to Istanbul in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
according to everyone you talk to. I did have the privilege of going to Athens in 2007 with our friend Mullen, and we lost. That's why me and Mullen aren't allowed to go to games anymore.
And yet you still go?
I haven't been this year, and we're doing quite well. Ironic coincidence, you decide. What a game, though, Dutton.
I deliberately, because at the time I was working at Everton, and the sense of gloom of Evertonians pervaded through my soul. And I just remember that last day, the day of the final. I was working with a legend, Mr. Barry Cass, and as the shutter was closing, we were just sitting there quietly, and he just went, "They're going to win it, aren't they, Dutts?" And I just went, "Oh God, yeah." And we went on for that, and then I went home. I determined I wasn't going to watch it because, put it this way, when you're in the position that I am, there was no way I was going to win. So I thought, I don't need to watch it. So while I was watching, I turned on at half-time and saw that it was 3-0. I was like, oh my God, this could get ugly. So I thought, okay, I'll come back in a bit. And when I came back, it was 3-3. I was like, I just had like the number of texts, all from Evertonians, all along the theme of unbelievable, only them, or only them from Mark, from the Kales.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, lest we forget, if not for Jersey Dudek, you lose that game because Shevers scores that goal.
Shevers somehow was the best player in the world at the time and took one of the worst pens I've ever seen and missed an absolute sitter. I think we actually killed his career because if anyone remembers, I think it was 2 years before, he'd scored the pen to win the Champions League at Old Trafford against Juventus. This was a different player. We killed him. They then sold him to Chelsea and he was garbage. I asked for one thing. I would love to go back to the 25th of May 2005 and sit in the Gibbons household as that game goes on. Could you imagine Liam and Jeff? Be amazing.
No, a big Jed would have thrown you out at 3-3.
That just Gibbo's face, pure vitriol, summed up today by the fact that Everton are linked with a guy called Traore who plays for Monaco, and Falcao, who also plays for Monaco. It seems to have done a serious injury to his knee. Gibbo's response is, well, that means we're not getting Traore, doesn't it? That negativity is what drives the rest of the world.
No comment.
They're the best comebacks we can think of. If you've got any, let us know. We'll give you a how at the end of the show. Dutton, let's move on.
Yep.
So we've done best comebacks. Let's do things that need a comeback. I'll lead, Dutton. You follow. Like Strictly Come Dancing.
Get your hand off my arse.
What an arse, though. They may be winning right now. I think they're still winning. As we record this, they are winning 1-0. Manchester United. If you're a Man U fan, this team needs a comeback, Dutton.
Yep.
You know, they're awful. They haven't got any players. They need to fix things fast.
Yeah. Must be Moyes' fault.
You know and I know that there's a certain Scottish manager who left him in the lurch. But they need to fix these things for finances, Dutton. It's not like... Go on.
I was just saying, everyone's always gone on that Ferguson and Moyes were friends. So if this is the type of mess he left his friend, can you imagine what he'd done if the next manager would have been an enemy?
Could you imagine what he would have left Rafa Benitez? Or Roberto Mancini? Good God. They need to fix it. They need to fix it fast. This team is based on getting to the Champions League every year. They're already on tours in the States based on they're in the Champions League. If they don't get in the Champions League, it's a spiral. I know what this spiral is. It's Graham Souness years 92 onwards. We have never recovered.
Well, it's one of those, unfortunately, sport and life, if you're going to throw the two together, it's cyclical, it goes in circles. The further away, the faster and further you run, eventually you end up back where you began. And Manchester United have enjoyed a period of dominance. And yeah, I'm going to say this because I am correct. No English club has dominated the game the way Manchester United have done since the early 1990s. Don't give me this Liverpool 70s and 80s. Let's actually look at it. in this 20-year period, Man United have dominated more than Liverpool did. And, we're talking a totally different game. Because as we know, football was only invented in 1992.
Well, so they're the only ones who've ever dominated football, done. As they invented it.
They invented it. They were the first winners of it. They have been the gold standard. But, the game has changed to an extent that they've been loyal to players, and probably towards the end, they've been a bit too loyal with some of them, because some of them are past it. A new manager is always going to struggle. As we said, you don't want to be the guy after the legend. You want to be the guy after the guy who failed.
Yeah.
Now, if Moyes is a good manager.
Yes. Sorry, that wasn't silence from me. He is a good manager.
Yeah, it just something clicked in you, and you remembered the ginger gene, so you have to stay loyal. Okay, I understand that.
He's a good manager. I think he's not as good as people thought he was. And I'll stick by that and forever until he proves me wrong that he's the best manager ever. Everton fans haven't got a clue.
He's a perfect manager for an ownership who all they want to do is not spend a huge amount of money, because he made a living at Everton not spending money.
Yeah, I agree.
As I say, I worked there and friends with the secretary, and he said the problem with Moyes, he thinks it's his money. Now, speaking of someone who doesn't like to spend money himself, that type of mentality means you have to be damn sure before you spend what little you're going to spend. So obviously, you go to Man United, he bought Fellaini and he went about it in ways that, annoyed Everton fans, and the pursuit of Leighton Baines. It's been annoying. It's been controversial. The bottom line is, this squad is terrible.
The issue is, though, this squad's been terrible for 4 years and they've won 3 titles.
Yeah.
It kind of sums up the manager.
Things end.
Past and previous. Oh, no, I don't disagree. And if you ask Souness, Dalglish left him in exactly the same position.
He left him with Jimmy Carter.
Nobody left him with Beardsley, who was old, Barnes, older.
David Speedy.
Rush.
Nicky Tanner.
Okay, exactly. And this is what I'm trying to say, don't
I can keep going.
No, you can't. But what I'm saying, he'd won the league. Let's move on, because we've drifted this into a Liverpool thing I don't want to talk about.
Copy propaganda.
Exactly. England cricket done. Talk me through it.
Well, this is a rather surprising fall from grace, considering that 6 weeks, 2 months ago, the last time we spoke in a waxing lyrical sense of the word, we just won the Ashes 3-0.
Yeah.
And we were going down under with some people saying, "Well, it's going to be a clean sweep." The usual dickhead mentality of some of, "Oh, we're going to win 5-0. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about." The problem for English, as we know, I'll just put some context in. The Test series was lost 5-0 for the second time in 3 tours. And we're currently losing the one-day series 3-0 under the same captain of Alistair Cook, who hasn't really scored a run himself. There is mass problems behind the scenes where, typically, the one name is prominent. I'm not defending him. I'm not criticising him. I will just say that there always seems to be the one name. That's Fig Jam, Kevin Peterson. Yeah. For me, the biggest problem is, Andrew Strauss was stood down as captain and retired at the end of the 2012 Test series at home to South Africa. Since that time, England have had 3 different opening partnerships. Now, it all starts at the top. That's they're the people. They're going out. They set the tone. Well, who we helping here? It's not Cook. The captain doesn't know who he's batting with from one series to another, it seems. And if they said we identified Joe Root is the man to bat for England at the top of the order for 10 years, he didn't have a great summer. Yeah, but as I've said, and I'll constantly defend this because the idiots who brought it up, he should have been out on 9 at Lords. He went to want to make 180 because he's the only batsman ever who's cashed in on bad luck. He's been moved around and not opening. Where he should have had 10 Test matches being an opening batsman by now. It should be this Test partnership should be 10 tests in, but it's not. It got cut off at 5. Because of weakness in the middle order, and Carberry can do a job here, but he can't do it anywhere else. So that's the first thing that needs to be sorted out, for my money.
I just think, Dutton, that the issue comes with certain teams at certain times, and Man U maybe a good example here is everyone gets old or loses form at exactly the same time.
I think
So who's going to know? Who's going to, like when we did the last one of these? Who's going to know? Koch won't score any runs. Bell won't score any runs. Peterson won't score any runs. Pryor doesn't know which end of the bat to hold, and we can't get any wickets.
And Jonathan Trott.
Sorry, Dutton, I missed him as well.
No, I mean, Jonathan Trott has an illness, a problem.
Yeah, but
we hope he recovers.
Which
but
we do, but
you can't foresee it.
You can't, but he wasn't scoring runs anyway in that period before he did that. They're lads who were averaging 50, 60, including Pryor, 2 years, a year before, 6 months before, and they're all averaging 10. That becomes the end of the game.
And obviously as well, the problem that Graham Swan stood down, because again, he said, well, I first had my first inklings about retirement after the Oval Test. Speaking as someone who now has actually retired from playing, this is natural retirement, not like last year's retirement where it was basically one big comeback tour.
Yeah.
If you have an inkling to stop doing something, you have to stop then. Because once the seed's planted, the first bump in the road you hit if you carry on can be a crippling blow. Because the thought at the back of your head will quickly come to the front. It's like Ian Chappell, way back in the day, former Australian captain. He was playing a game, I think it might have been for South Australia, I'm not sure who it was, I'll look that up, I'm sorry. He caught himself looking at the clock at the ground and saw that the game had only been played. It was a 4-day game and it was 5 minutes into it, but he was already looking at the clock.
Yeah.
He said, time to go.
That's the issue, Dutton, and this is where you want evolution, not revolution, but we talk 6 of the best 11 players in the team have got to be changed. That's not good, or not changed, but need to either get better or be changed. Done. 3 quick ones.
Okay.
Game of Thrones season 4. I know you don't watch it. Love Game of Thrones. Great TV show. Comes back in March. Needs a comeback. It needs to be fast.
This is the problem with the Game of Thrones, though. He hasn't written the rest of the books yet. He hasn't finished.
I know, but we'll speed George R.R. up soon. And Dutton, we've both got a computer game that we'd like to come back. I'd like Swaz, Sensible World of Soccer. How good was that game?
It was awesome. Goal-scoring superstar hero.
Exactly. It needs to come back in whatever form it needs to come back in. Dutton, what's your computer game?
Cannon fodder.
What a game, Dutton.
Just think how good they can make that now.
Imagine that in 3D and all that.
But only if it
amazing.
has the original theme tune.
Of course, which is?
War. It's never been so much fun.
It hasn't done. It hasn't. Let's move on, Dutton. So we've given you the best comebacks ever. We've told you things that need a comeback. And now I'm going to tell you things that shouldn't never have come back. Dutton, I was flicking through the TV in my new abode this week. Birds of a Feather. Not only has it come back, it's on ITV. It's on WTF.
Yeah, it's one of those, you know. I didn't get this memo, but apparently TV and movie were out of ideas.
That is awful.
Nothing new can be made. Nothing new can be made. We can only rehash.
But why is a different channel rehashing a TV show that stopped being good on another channel 20 years ago?
Because it's ITV and they have no ideas of their own.
Can we start a campaign, Dutton? ITV out. That channel should be removed from our television screens. And
if
fast.
It meant people like Adrian Chiles and Andy Townsend not having a job, I would support this.
I'm all in. I'm with you, Dutton. Next one, Dutton. Yes, Prime Minister, the TV show. So once the BBC have said, nah, we're good, we like the first 2, should have been stopped.
Especially as Jonathan Lynn and Anthony Jay came up with the idea of a reboot and said to the Beeb, we'd like to do a reboot. And they said, okay, do as a pilot. And Jay and Lynn's response was, we've done 37 pilots, the original series, of course. The BBC went, yeah, I can't help noticing, however, that 2 of the main characters are dead.
Yeah.
So, and it was brought back originally as a screenplay. As a stage show. and David Haig and Henry Goodman reprised their roles in the series exclusively on Dave. Never good words.
No.
It's like when you say the hit new comedy on ITV4. There's one word in that that's wrong. Well, probably two. Hit comedy. If something's exclusive to Dave, it's exclusive to Dave for a reason.
Just on this, Dutton, are you still with me on this? There's like certain channels where you'll watch a TV show, and others where you're like, if it's on there, it can't be good.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's like, oh, as you said, the hit US drama on Watch. Why are you not on Why are you not on BBC, Channel 4, Channel 5, or Sky One,
or FX?
Or FX? Why are you not on them channels? Because you're not good enough. Ipso, I'm going to be giving you a miss.
Yep.
Last one, Dutton. It's a sport one. It's happened a lot. Why does Evander Holyfield come back? I don't want my granddad to be boxing.
You tell him.
I'm not telling him. I'm
You'd have to
hoping
shout a bit
you
loud.
will.
You'd have to shout a bit loud. He's missing an ear.
Oh, I might send him an email or a text or speak to him on a megaphone from a far distance because he's still kicking my backside.
Boxing seems to be a sport that lends itself to people making comeback after comeback. And, you know, the causal link between a sport that you constantly get your head battered around and the ability to realise that you've got nothing else to do in life. So you may as well just do that. Worth considering.
I just think they're doing that film that we've seen, a grudge match. Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
As boxers? No.
Yeah.
Do you want to know a great story? So I told a colleague of mine, Pradip, he talked about the film, and he was like, obviously Sly Stallone's Rocky, but when has Robert De Niro ever been in a boxing film?
Well, I've never seen it, so I wouldn't know.
And I was just like, Raging Bull, won an Oscar. His response was, never seen it, don't know what you're talking about.
You can have my DVD.
I'm
not going to watch it.
I officially became old at that point. You're a moron. You're doing it out of spite. He's just an idiot.
I do enjoy doing things out of spite.
You do.
I mean, I also will. I have taken lessons from Mullen as well, in that, not to the extent he does, but if someone has talked up and talked up and talked up an event or a thing, like a TV show or a band, not a band, I don't listen to music, and then people say, you've got to watch this, I won't.
No, you won't.
Although I should point out that I have been given Series 1 of Breaking Bad by my sister.
That needs to be watched on.
It's a disturbing picture on the front of a grown man in his underpants.
It's Malcolm in the Middle's... At that point, it was Malcolm in the Middle's dad in underpants.
No,
That's why it took me a while to get onto the TV show.
Yeah, he was the dentist from Seinfeld.
If you say so.
Mm-hmm.
Dutton, we're back.
We're back.
And we want to hear from the audience. You can tweet us at waxing_lyrical. Or you can email us at waxinglyricalpod@gmail.com. Any ideas, any comments, or any boring tales if you've been with us before. Let us know. We'll discuss them on air. And we may even mention your name if we like you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been Mainz. This has been Dutts. It's been Waxing Lyrical, episode 55. Thanks for downloading.